What's up, guys? Matt Wick here, and we are back. NHL 24, what is this, episode 2? I think official episode 2 of the testing the draft series. We're going to treat this kind of like a pseudo GM mode, like rebuild almost. Just go through some of the beginning stuff, like get you guys, if you haven't been introduced to the channel before, what I used to do a while ago, teach you how to draft a little bit better in this game, understand the mechanics of it to what at least I believe them to be. I mean, it's not very fleshed out in terms of what works, what doesn't work, but this is what has found me some pretty good prospects in the past. So first things first, I did take one of these suggestions from the previous video in the comments that someone left, and I put some of our younger guys on the power play just to give them some time. So I feel like this first line is pretty good. Connor McMichael, young two-way forward center, with Peyton Krebs, who's a playmaker, and then we got two snipers over here, and then Adam Bachfist, our offensive defenseman. And then on our second power play unit, we have some of the older guys with Keandre Miller quarterbacking that from the center point. Didn't really want to put too many of my younger guys on the power play just because, I mean, they aren't really going to be point guys, and if you put them out there with minutes, that they're just going to struggle and get minuses and not play very well. But these guys are also getting a lot of the 4-on-4, 3-on-3, and the penalty kill time as well. I do have Jonathan Taves, I believe, on the second unit, I want to say, of the penalty kills, just because, you know, he's older. You don't want to wear him down too much, even though injuries are off. Just try to keep it a little bit into the realism, you know, for my sake. Other than that, I have not looked at the draft class yet, so we'll do that here in a second. First thing, though, that I do want to show you is my scouting setup. So I did go through and get this all taken care of. One thing I do is I do turn off the like fog of war that they do for the just pretty much for the NHL, just because I don't think it works very well. The scouting of it's pretty bad. I've never liked it pretty much, so I just turned that off. Don't want to worry about it. So all 20 of my scouts here, I did salvage the ones that I could. We got pretty lucky actually in this one. Sometimes you'll get all of your A and B scouts with the NHL scouts who can't scout pretty much in the minors. But we got pretty lucky with our top guys here. They are all pretty much draft scouts. So we're going to go through here. I'll show you pretty much what I did. What I like to do is pretty much find out what region they're good in. They have to have at least an A-. I'd prefer at least an A, but nothing lower than that. Even if, like this guy, he's a D overall scout, we'll use him in the meantime. And then what I like to do is use this screen here, and you'll see the scouts active at the bottom. I always want to make sure I have 3 in the USA, 1 in each region. I like to have at least 3 in each region in the Canadian regions. My extra one I put in the OHL just because that was the best guy available on the market. 2 at least in Europe that can go through just because there's never a ton of prospects. So pretty much the 2 guys that I do have, I'll make sure they have at least an A in each region. And then maybe a little bit in the Russia and Scandinavia areas as well. The Nordic scouts, I feel like a lot of good prospects come out of there, so I like to have a couple, especially because those were our 3 best scouts that the computer pretty much gave us. And then at least 2 in Russia, pretty much to round it out. And then one quick thing too, before I forget this, is the scout salary. Now, what you want to do is you want to make sure you spend as close to that upper limit as possible. Even though, yes, I can get these guys for cheap, I don't have to give them massive contracts. I will always go in and bump it up pretty much to the highest that I can. You don't want to have any budget remaining by the time you have your 20 guys. And the reason for that being is you'll notice as you go further and further in your GM mode, if you think you're saving money on the active scouts, or you're like, they're good enough, I'm paying them $90,000, it's fine. The computer will then start lowering your budget, and there's no way besides bumping it up just a little bit to get that raised back up, so you'll pretty much be screwed going forward with that, and you really don't want that to happen, because once you get 2, 3, 4 years into the GM mode, you'll notice a lot of A, B overall scouts will become available, and you want to make sure you can get those guys. And I believe, I think it ties, no, okay, it doesn't tie into your coaching salary there, but that also gets annoying too, so you want to make sure coaching salary, scouting salary, you're always trying to spend towards that limit that the computer sets for you, because like I said, you will notice it come down if you don't spend that full budget. It will reallocate it somewhere else. I don't know how it actually works, pretty much, but yeah, that's the gist of that. Yeah, but let's go ahead. We're going to get into the draft class to see what this first class looks like. And then I'll probably, in this video, I don't know how much of the simulation I'll show. I'll probably just skip to like maybe a midpoint in the season, and I'll let you guys decide do we want to sell off everything and get a lot of picks for the future, or do we want to like ride it out? I don't think, regardless of anything, I'm not going to be a buyer. I don't care if we're first place in the league. I'm not going to go out and trade for a top superstar. I'm not going to trade our picks or our prospects just because I want to keep this a more in-house, homegrown draft as much as we can, excluding the expansion draft. But let's go ahead, see what we have for this draft class. Okay, so I don't think now. So bear with me, and you can correct me in the comments because someone already did on Noah Valley. He is a real person. So is, I looked it up, Hugo Havlid. Our first 2 picks in the last draft, they are actually real. I don't think Brian Patrick, Brian Patrick. You know what? Now I'm thinking it is, because I don't think the computer would put in a name like Brian on its own. Berkeley Catan, I've had him in past drafts. Lindstrom, did not know he was black. That's interesting. Nice to add the picture in there to have that. And then Tij Aginla, I believe, is Jerome Aginla's son. And then Kivi Harju. Okay. Juracek, another one of them. I thought, no, I guess he wasn't drafted by now. I don't know if there's 3. But yeah, so a lot of these names I do recognize. Luke Misa, I'm surprised he's not a little bit higher up. There was a lot of buzz for him before, in previous GM modes, I mean. But yeah, pretty much we'll let the scouts go through for a couple months is what I'll do. Let them suss it out, figure out who is who's good and who's not, and then I'll go through here and I will pretty much like click in. If they're not already being scouted, I think it comes up, yeah, you can press Y, scout player, and then it'll pop up who's in the region that can do it, and then I'll focus on skill assessment, just because I feel like that's going to give me the best idea of who's going to come out as a top prospect and who's not. And we'll get more into that, like once we get later into the draft, into the year, I'll maybe show a little bit of that. But the number one thing we always look for in these drafts is we sort by names. We go down to the P's, and for some of you guys who are new to the channel, have not seen my videos from the past, there is a player, and I believe it's posted on my channel somewhere, so you can go digging around for it and see if you can find it. In, I believe, NHL 12 or 13, where I saw he was the number 3 prospect, he was drafted. His first name, or his last name, was Pecker, which I thought hilarious. First name was T, so I click in, and his name was Tiny Pecker. And that is pretty much what sparked my interest in doing these drafts videos on YouTube specifically. I've always been a fan of the drafts, whatever sport it is, mostly NFL and NHL, just because those are the ones that do it best. Well, let's see. We're here. And forgive me if I go past the E's already and I don't see anything and I keep going, just because I always get real excited. We get Pekar, which I believe this is a real person. So I'm not going to get too excited there. And it looks like we do not get lucky this year. There are no Peckers in this draft, unfortunately. But yeah, I know you'll see, if you've played NHL games, you've seen him before. Tiny Crosby, Tiny Ovechkin, stuff like that. I got 1 year, Tiny Pecker. Traded up for him. He did turn out to be a stud. He came out, I think, like 76 overall, which is pretty high for those drafts back in the day. Yeah, we'll see what we can find. I found some other good ones sometimes. Some people will get randomly generated with the names like McNutt, stuff like that. So we'll just see. That normally pops up more like 2, 3, 4 years down the road. But yeah, so pretty much I'll go ahead, simulate to like a midpoint in the season. We'll suss out kind of what we want to do, how we want to advance in the rest of the season, and we'll kind of go from there. So I'll see you guys at mid-season. All right, guys, so we are back here today, actually, at the time this video is being filmed, February 7th, 2024. And as you can see, the season has pretty much gone how I expected it to go. Phil Kessel is our leading point guy with 18 goals and 27 assists, as you can see there. And I believe we are tied for the worst record in the league, or the lowest points in the league with the Kings, which is a little bit surprising to me that they are doing so bad in this simulation. Really, I haven't really checked very much the standings so far in this video to see pretty much, like, while I was doing the skipping ahead there a little bit, I pretty much just simmed pretty quickly, made a couple changes to the lines to see if I could jar some things around, but it just ain't happening with this roster. We don't have the top end star power to contend with most teams' first and second lines, and I'll show that in a little bit here with our plus minuses of the teams. But yeah, really no surprises. The Panthers being that low, I guess, is a pretty big surprise. Other than that, not really. Everything looks pretty status quo for what we got in real life. The Golden Knights being that low is surprising as well. And then the Metro Blue Jackets being that high is very surprising. So let's go ahead. I'll show real quick the lines, the slight changes that I made. I did move Jonathan Taves down just because he was really struggling on that top line, as long with Atkinson and Perron. They just were stinking it up, but like I said, it wasn't their fault, because pretty much every line did the same thing. Tyler Bertuzzi's been playing well up there with Connor McMichael and Michael Bunting. But as you can see, the plus minuses just aren't there. And that's because, like I said, I think they're just going up against such high talent throughout the rest of the league that it's just not, they're not able to compete. So I got our younger guys some more minutes in there. Defense hasn't looked too bad. I mean, plus minuses on the defense aren't that, besides Thomas Harley. That second line. There's always one line that's really got to eat it, and then Bernard Docker, I switched him out with Villamaki mid-season, just so I could spread the games around between the two of them a little bit, hopefully get some growth going that way. But I think this season, our objective is probably going to be to trade Swayman away. He's only got 1 year left on his deal, 25 years of age, so he's definitely done growing. Well, he'd pop up a little bit more. But he's going to want a big pay increase after this season. And with our depth at goaltending, I don't really think we need to do that at this point. Spencer Knight's going to grow, and I think he'll be more than serviceable when we have him on a cheap deal for 3 more years. So no really concern there. So I'll do that probably all off camera. But what I want to show now is pretty much the main reason of this series is the draft. So let's go ahead into the draft class, see if we have any surprises, and see how our scouts have been doing. And wow, for the first episode of this, actual simming, we have quite the surprise. This guy definitely, to me, seems like he's made up, because, I mean, I'll look him up after the video to see if he's real, but I do know the franchise mode likes to do this in the first couple years, toss in some random medium franchise guy. And for it being our first season, and we're struggling pretty bad, I think this guy's going to be what we're going to be going after big time. But what I want to show in this video too is how you scout mid-season. Yeah, you could go into that scouting page and like go through and like select individually. But what I like to do, so I'll go through here, I'll look around. Okay, so we got good ratings on these guys, which is actually surprising for how past games have gone, but that's the top order of the draft. You'll notice as you go down a little bit more, hey, this guy's missed, what's going on? But at least you can see, so he is currently being scouted, so that's good. But as you go down, you'll notice, okay, this guy's not currently being scouted. Let's see what we've got on him. Okay, skill assessment's not bad. 3 bars on that, that's not terrible. Let's say you want more information of his skill assessment, hit the Y button. It'll pull up a scout that's in the area, or you could pick a different one if you have a better rated guy there. But we'll just go with Francois here. I'll go skill assessment, boom, automatically adds it to his list, and he'll go through and scout that. One reason I like that is because you can go through here, sort by potential, find guys who, let's say like this guy, 244, you might not find Bo Yoshimura when you're going through the big list of individual scouts and assigning what you want them to do. So you can see he's not being scouted. Medium elite, maybe. We got pretty good read on his strengths and weaknesses. None for being a goaltending prospect. He has no weaknesses, is pretty impressive. So let's go ahead. One thing first, we'll pin this guy. But then let's go back into that. Why? And let's do potential and comparison. Now, do keep in mind that some of this stuff does take longer for them to complete, and you can see this when you actually do go to that scouting page that I showed previously. You'll see like the time it takes will be longer for potential and comparison. That's why, like I said, skill assessment to me is a really big one, at least to be able to find guys who are more NHL ready than the rest of them. But hey, maybe we have ourselves another goaltending prospect. I don't know if this guy's real. You can fill me in the comments, but I'll believe no. With Bo Yoshimura playing over in the Liga, I'll say that he's probably not a real player there. But yeah, pretty much that's the way you can go through it. Just wanted to give some quick tips and tricks in this video for people who pretty much aren't familiar with the channel. Like I said, I did this a couple years ago, went through different drafts and gave some tips and feedback on draft. And as always, comments are appreciated too. Arthur Bukaboom here, so we'll definitely get him scouted as well. Oh, he's already being scouted, perfect. But yeah, feel free to leave some questions in the comments. I'll try to get to those as fast as I can. I'm gonna try to keep a pretty steady upload schedule here, pretty much like Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday maybe, and then do some maybe streaming on Fridays. So yeah, that's going to be the end of this video. Next time you'll see it will be the end of the season. I'll fill you guys in on what trades we made, and we'll get into that draft. So hope you enjoyed the video. Give it a like, leave a comment, subscribe, and peace.